Okay, we are live streaming. And I'm letting the people in.
Whoa.
Sorry, I swallowed something the wrong way.
Like that mug.
Actually, Dave, I don't think, while we did pass 483, it's not on the agenda.
No,
so
it's not.
I don't think we
No,
can
it's
move it.
Yeah, just babbling. I mean,
We got to
even,
make sure it matches. We'll get it next week.
Yes.
even if it was on the agenda, we couldn't vote it out anyway. So, okay. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you, and welcome to the Motor Vehicle Subcommittee. It's a little after 3. We're getting a little bit early start. We have a good bit of business. We have 5 bills on for today. Some of these are going to be some good digging in and getting some work done. So I'm excited about that. Let's go ahead and start with House Bill 115, which is the vehicle laws, cancel, revoke, suspended driver's license penalties. Delegate Moon, we were tasked.
Delegate, do we want to start with the MDTA bill?
Which,
That's 291.
yeah, because they're here. Is that what your thoughts are?
Is MDTA here?
Yes, I believe we're all here.
Okay. Well, you know what? Then yeah. Why don't we do that one first? Who do we have from MDTA here?
So this is Jim Ports. I believe Deb Sharpless, Chantel Green, Mary O'Keefe, Brad Ryan, Daryl Smith, Heather, and Kylie. Yes, I believe everybody's here. I'm not sure because I can't see anything. I can't see any names.
Okay. Well, I guess for House Bill 291, we did talk last week. That's Delegate Crimsville. Failure to pay video tolls, outstanding fines. It has a pretty significant fiscal note. And while we recognize that there are, there's obviously some issues both on passing the bill as it stands and just in general, it's being made to address specific issues. So one of the things that came up, some of the members of the subcommittee had the idea of having some kind of potential amnesty program or amending the bill to kind of have some kind of amnesty program, which I thought was an interesting idea. But I was a little bit hesitant to move forward in that direction just because my guess is that there is a significant amount of other financial entanglements when it comes to bonding and other things. So I guess if you would like to speak a little bit about, Mr. Ports, if you would like to speak a little bit about, the thoughts currently on the bill and the idea of possibly, what the pitfalls are that we might be missing.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And first of all, thank you for inviting us to your subcommittee to explain some of these issues and some current concerns that you have. Let me address the waiver issue that you just brought up, because that has come up several times. It's come up throughout MDOT. It came up in MVA for insurance, and it came up with us back in 2015. MDTA held a waiver period. Our experience with waivers has not been that great. As a matter of fact, in 2015, the result of that was really less than $3.5 million that was dismissed out of $300 and some million that was outstanding. So I think MVA had a similar experience with their insurance. When I was deputy secretary, I recognized that. It's just that people just don't seem to take advantage of those programs, even though they seem very laudable and good ideas, but they don't take advantage of them.
Okay, what about the bill as it stands? What are your thoughts on HB 291?
So obviously it has a pretty sizable fiscal note. And, I would say that, in these COVID time periods, it becomes even more difficult. We've had to cut substantially our budget. And as you know, traffic numbers are down around 80%. So we at the MDTA rely totally on toll revenues. As you know, we get no money from the general fund. and we don't receive any funding from the TTF or the Transportation Trust Fund. So we totally rely on toll revenue, and it would be a pretty big hit for us.
Let me ask you this. How many of the tolling facilities do you have that you manage around the state?
Just how many toll facilities?
Yes.
Well, I guess including the ETLs and ICC, I think it's 9. You got the 3 bridge crossings. You got the one up on 95, the Tidings Bridge. You have the Bay Bridge, obviously, and you have the what we would call the Nice Middleton Bridge, and then you got the ICC and the ETLs in Baltimore County and Baltimore City.
Are any of these cash tolls?
And Hatem. I'm sorry, Hatem also. Go ahead. I'm
Are
sorry.
any of these, Mr. Ports, are any of these cash tolls? Because we get a variety of these kinds of tolling bills every year, and some of them have to do with folks maybe don't have access for a variety of reasons to bank accounts and or being able to use the Easy Pass. And are any of these actually cash tolls, or all of them at this point, all Easy Pass tolls? And I'm setting this up for Delegate Learman because I'm sure she's going to have a follow-up question.
Sure. I think I think there's 2 questions there. If I'm hearing you correctly, and one is about, are there any cash tolls, and then how does it impact the low-income families?
Mr. Ports, maybe not just low-income families, but more, that's part of it, but more the ability of other folks that may be undocumented and want to pay the tolls, but they have difficulties getting into bank accounts and trails.
Okay.
And that kind of thing.
Okay, sure. Thanks for that clarification. So the first one I'll address the first one first, and your first question first, I should say, and that is, do we have any cash tolling? Currently, no, we do not. And as you may recall, Maryland has been following many other states, and our customers have been asking for decades why they can't travel at highway speeds through our tolls like they do through Delaware and Virginia and other places. And so it was part of our plan to move towards cashless tolling and what we call all electronic tolling. And we had scheduled, for Fort McHenry and the Baltimore Harbor Tunnel in, I guess, 2022, 2023. But when this little thing called COVID hit, we literally had to move that up. And the reason we had to move it up is because, as you know, I think Governor Hogan called it the invisible disease, and nobody really knew anything about it or how it would impact the public. So to protect our toll collectors, as well as the traveling public, because as you know, if you pass change or if you pass anything back and forth between people, you could actually pass the disease. And so to have a toll collector in there handing out cash and handing out change and stuff, it was just an unsafe situation. So we literally, on March 17th, basically had to remove all of our toll collectors and go full cashless. Now when we did that, prior to that, we had the video toll rate, but what we did is we changed the video toll rate to an all cash rate. So it was a $4 rate. And of course we had the Easy Pass rate, which is $3. Since that time, and quite frankly, we only expected to be in this situation with COVID for about 2 weeks to about 2 months. And we're in our 10th month now. And so we also, our board, as well as the governor, we have made the decision to move the all electronic tolling or cashless tolling up to help protect the traveling public.
Okay. What is the current? This is to reduce it to 25. What is the current violation fine?
The current civil penalty, is that what you're asking? I'm sorry, you broke up just a little bit.
Yeah, the current penalty.
Okay, yeah, it's $25. Our board made that decision back in June or July. I can't remember the exact date. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I can get it for you though.
No, that's okay. I think I'm missing something. In order, I think it was Delegate Parrott first. I'm not positive. You gotta unmute yourself there, Delegate.
Is this good?
Yeah, you got it. I can hear you now.
All right, very good. Jim, it's good to hear from you. Thanks for coming in and talking about this today. And one question I had
Sure.
about the amnesty was, if we did that for a year, it seems like there'd be a potential to get more money that we wouldn't have otherwise. And even if it goes away after a year and not many people took advantage of it, but some did, it seems like our cash flow would be a little bit higher. But then if not many people took advantage of it like it's happened in the past, then we still have all those outstanding bills that would be paid. So it really wouldn't have hit the budget very much. Is that accurate?
Well, I mean, the fact that we don't get many people to participate that part is accurate. But you also have to look at the amount of time it takes our customer service agents to go through that too. So, I mean, again, we just haven't had a good experience with it. It just seems like a lot of work for not a lot of money.
Okay.
And quite frankly, and here's the other issue that I do want to bring up. You know, a little over a third of our delinquent, I guess you would call them, delinquent toll payers or non-payers, are out of state. And you know, other states don't give our citizens amnesty, and we would be giving them amnesty, which means that our people who are doing the right thing and paying their tolls and paying their fair share will be subsidizing people who aren't, as well as people who are out of state.
Can I make a quick comment before I have to run to present a bill, Mr. Chair?
Sure.
Okay. I thank you for being here, Mr. Ports. I have really serious concerns about the fact that there's no cash option at 895 or 95. Jeff Tosi sat in our subcommittee hearing last year and promised us that there were no plans to move to a place where there would be no cash option. Video tolling is fine, but preserving at least one lane for a cash option, make sure that the unbanked folks, unbanked Marylanders who want to get back and forth are accommodated. You should know, I drive the 895 tunnel all the time. And I will say on a regular basis, one of the video tolls will tell me that my Easy Pass doesn't have sufficient funds or is invalid. And then when I come back the other way, it pays it correctly. So, you know, there are a lot of problems with the video tolls. They are not perfect. And, you know, to not give people the option of paying cash, I think is incredibly problematic. The 895 tunnel goes into what is one of the poorest zip codes in the entire state of Maryland, with a very large Latino population. And these are folks who are traditionally not banked. And so, yeah, they go through, the notice then gets mailed to them. Often they're transient. Maybe they move around and then they don't have a check. So they have to figure out how to get a cash order to go pay. So it's this huge ordeal when they could have just put a couple bucks in a basket. And so I think that this is yet one more decision by the state government to really leave folks like that who don't always have a voice at the highest levels out of the equation. And so I just find it really troubling. So thanks for hearing me out.
Well, if you don't mind, I'd like to address this because it is an important point for us. And if we had a solution, I would hope that you would agree with me that it would be beneficial to the people that you're talking about. And so let's talk about some of the options that they do have. And you're right, Jeff did probably say that. COVID changed all that, as I mentioned. So, I'm not going to banter back and forth on that one. There was no other decision other than that for the safety of the traveling public and our toll collectors. So that was a decision point, and then we made decisions after that. But first of all, for people who are unbanked, even if they paid cash, they would have to pay $4. But if they got an Easy Pass, then they would only pay $3. So we can actually benefit them if they were to sign up for an Easy Pass. And so what we do is we welcome all of our customers, including the unbanked, cash-paying customers, to get an Easy Pass, and they can replenish their Easy Pass account with cash at any one of our customer service centers. There's one right at the tunnel, as you know, or they can mail a money order or replenish their account. And quite frankly, we did put out a press release in January highlighting the fact that we were open to all customers, and even those without bank accounts who only use cash. And we tried to highlight in that press release our customer service centers, and that we're happy to have them come in and work with us, and quite frankly receive a discount for doing it, a 25% discount, which would absolutely help the exact citizens that you're talking about. And to address a few other good things that come of this, as you mentioned, it's a poor neighborhood in that area, and there's other benefits to cashless tolling, which is less idling time, which means less emissions, which is good for environmental justice, decreased congestion, which helps, one, driver safety, and it creates a safer work environment for our employees, but also it helps with fuel savings and fuel consumption and not having to stop at the toll booths. And quite frankly, we also recognized a 70% reduction in crashes near the tolls. And so there are many, many benefits to the same people that you're talking about. And we would encourage, we hope we can work with you and encourage your constituents and these unbanked cashless customers that you're concerned about, and we are too, to sign up for an Easy Pass and get that discount and pay that account through a cash method at our service centers.
Okay, Mr. Ports, let's keep going, because I think we're getting a little off the scope. I appreciate all of that. And just a very quick question that I have, and that is, you stated that the current fine is $25. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That is correct.
So
It has been. It's. I think it went into. I think it was in effect in March or June. I'd have to get the exact date for you. I just don't remember off the top of my head.
July 1st.
Okay.
July 1st. There you go.
Bill,
Thank you, Heather.
Can somebody please correct me if I'm wrong, but the current bill reduces it to $25. Patrick, is that right?
No, it is already $25.
That's right.
Well, the difference is it's retroactive forever. So what we have done is implemented it back to March 17th. It was effective July 1st. We backed it to March 17th. So basically, from the COVID date forward, anything prior to that was at the $50 rate. But most of those should be paid. I mean, except for the delinquent ones that are just never going to pay. And the other thing I would stress is that, you gave us the opportunity to work with a credit agency to try and get some more of these backdated funds. And we're in the process of creating an RFP, and we can assign that or we can sell it. Those are the two options that we have. Usually when you assign it, they'll pay you a percentage and they take a percentage. And quite frankly, it would benefit us more not to reduce those other fees retroactive forever. And I'm not even sure operationally how we would do it, by the way, but because we would probably get a better assignment from a credit agency. So it would impact that RFP also.
Okay, why don't we go to questions? I think that Delegate Healy was next, then Delegate Love, then Delegate Boyce, in that order. Delegate Healy.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and Secretary Jim Ports. Good to see you today. I have a couple questions. Again, about the interaction of going cashless creates issues, and we had some discussion about that. But I was wondering if the department, or actually the administration here, has looked into other ways of getting people access to the Easy Passes. In Florida, you can go into basically any drugstore, gas station, grocery store, and you can pay cash. You can buy one for $25 if you're visiting. You just use it while you're there, and you can go and get another one whenever you want. How many of these customer service centers are there? I mean, it doesn't seem like it's that user friendly.
Yeah, so thank you, Ann. And by the way, everybody, Ann and I were freshman legislators together. We started out in 1991 together, so we go way back. So great question. As you may know, we do have the customer service centers. There's a list of them from the MVTA facilities, but we also have been expanding into the MVA, Motor Vehicle Administration centers also as we can and as they have room, quite frankly. We also sell them at Giant and Weiss. And I'm glad you asked the question you did, because we literally at the MDTA had a meeting on this about a week and a half ago, where we came up with 69 different ideas on how to expand Easy Pass usage and options for expanding the way people can get them. And so some of those, and would include some of the car dealerships. We're looking at that option, and of course that would they would have to work with us on that. Tag and titles as another option to get the word out and get it out there. And we're also looking at other avenues as far as shopping centers or food stores and stuff like that. I don't think the 7-Eleven or Royal Farms or anything came up, but now that you mentioned it, I think that's a great idea, and we're going to have to add that to the list. So now we have 70 different ideas. But you're bringing up a great point. We have a robust marketing campaign that's going to roll out shortly, and we do want to include other people in this as far as getting the facilities out there.
Maybe some of the places where people buy money orders, if people go in check cashing places and stuff like that in the neighborhoods where people don't have access to banks or bank cards or credit cards.
Great point. That's a great point. 71. Okay. We're writing them down. We appreciate it. Thank you, Ann.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
Thank you. So I'm looking at the fiscal note, and it says that MDTA advises that it currently has $324 million in outstanding toll violation civil penalty debt that would be affected by the bill. And then you mentioned, well, I won't put that in there. In general, what is the average collection that you get? The percentage of the debt that you get back? I'm not asking this very well, but there's going to be a certain amount that you don't recover. And that amount, I would imagine, stays pretty standard across the years. So what is the average amount that you collect versus the average amount that you just have to write off?
I'm not sure I have that answer at hand, to be honest with you. I know that you're right, that number 320 or over 300 million is what's owed currently, but that's over several years. So I'd have to go back and look at that.
Because I'd be very curious
I'm not really
to
sure.
find out what on a regular basis has to be written off. And at what point you just say, look, it's been X number of years. We know we're not going to get it. We're not going to carry this as a debt anymore. We're just going to write it off.
Yeah, I'm not sure we do that. But Deb or Chantel, can one of you chime in on that one? They're both in our finance group, so that they may be able to have that at hand.
Jim, I can respond in just a minute. If you give me just a minute or two, would it be possible to come back to answer this question in just a couple minutes?
Sure. Delegate Boyce, I think you're next.
Thank you so much. And actually want to, so I actually, the Secretary answered some of my questions about the expansion. I was going to ask whether or not one could get an easy pass in the MBA, but if you're looking to expand, that's pretty awesome. But I just want to be clear about the easy pass, because I just literally got one last year, and only because easy pass was here downstairs in an session, and I just happened to get one. If they were not there, I would have never gotten an easy pass. Just FYI. Just anyway.
Okay.
So I just want to make sure I understand the process of easy pass. You don't need a bank account to put money on an account.
Correct. Yeah, you can go to one of our service centers and prepay the Easy Pass account.
Okay.
And then we would deduct it like as if you had a credit card on there.
And how soon do you think you can move to get these expansion centers out and about, and especially in the places in the location, for instance, that Delegate Learman spoke about?
Yeah, so again, we just had that meeting about a week and a half ago. We're kicking around all the ideas and brainstorming, and it really would depend on who was willing to do it. So, for example, if I reach out to Royal Farms, and they're all over the place now, and they agree, that'd be great. If 7-Eleven doesn't agree, then that becomes problematic. So I'm not sure how to exactly answer your question, but I can assure you that we are looking to expand pretty rapidly.
Okay, that's an answer. I appreciate that. I think that's an answer. So, I mean, if access.
And by the way, but could also mention that if you, like, for example, Delegate Learman spoke about specific areas, but if you know, because you know your constituents better than I do, right?
That's right.
You better. and so if you know of specific facilities or people who may want to work with us, then we'd be more than willing to reach out. So, if you can help us in that respect, we'd appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll add one more place. Who doesn't have a cell phone? This should be in every cell phone store.
Oh.
Across Maryland. So I'll leave it at that. But I want to pick up off of Delegate Love's point, because what's and Delegate Parrott's point about quote unquote amnesty and money owed. And it'd be interesting to know, based on what Delegate Love mentioned, that money amount spread out as it relates to actual fee versus late fee. And I do want to ask, and respectfully, how much, what's hard about this is that I can get $25 or $50, depending on who or where it is, fine or late fee for a toll that could be $4 and $3 and $6, right? And so I wonder about the agency's counting of that money as revenue or revenue.
No, we actually
It's
don't really count it as revenue.
I hope not.
We don't. Yeah, we don't. We don't.
But-
There's, I guess, a lot of misnomers out there, and they think that we're
I'm
like.
just asking.
Yeah, I'm glad you're asking. It's a great question. I'm not disagreeing with that, and I think that it's important that we understand that, one, we don't use that as revenue. As a matter of fact, it's really literally to offset our cost of doing business. It's no different than any other part of state government where they charge a fee for a specific purpose if you use a state government facility. And quite frankly, our civil penalties, we really don't make much money. If we do, it's by accident, quite frankly. It averages somewhere around 2.4 to 4.7, somewhere in that area, percent of our overall funds. It literally, no kidding, literally pays for our cost of doing business, because we have to go out of state, as I mentioned, to go to other MVAs. We have to go to court. We have to pay for all these services to try and track down these people. And it takes a lot of time to do this, and especially repeat offenders. So that's really where the money's for.
Yeah, Secretary, I hear you. I just be interested of that 324 million. I'd be curious about it spread out or separated from what the actual toll fees are and what the actual late fees would be. And you mentioned earlier that, and I think I got this right, I did come in late, I do apologize, that a third of what is usually due to the state is from out of state.
That is correct.
And
that is correct.
Would you say it's fair, and the committee can shoot me down for this, to say that we ought to take care of our own better than who we take care of out of state? So somebody coming in and out of state, let's just say, and in and out of state as in they're coming from another state to Maryland and vice, and back and forth, they should probably eat the late costs of however you want to charge, but the people we serve, the people here in Maryland, should get a little more grace.
I think,
last year there were complaints about even the system. I remember I went through my first, I think I went on the ICC mistakenly, like years ago, when it finally opened up, and I kept saying, where's the toll? I didn't understand the technology. And of course, a month later or 2 months later, whenever it was, I got the piece of paper, and what scared the absolute crap out of me was it was $6, but what I saw was if I didn't pay this in a number of weeks at this point, because it was late, I was going to get a $50 late fee, right? And so, yes,
correct.
Okay, that moves me, but like, it's still excessive, right? It's still excessive. And if it sounds like we are getting the majority, I think to Delegate Love's point, what is the majority that we are actually getting from tolls? Like who of the majority, is it 70% of folks just pay their tolls and we're fine, or they have their easy pass?
Yeah, I would, right off the bat, the average is right around 70% of people who have an easy pass. So you're right around 70%, boom, we get the money. It's not a big deal. It's the video toll folks, that don't have, in other words, people don't have an easy pass that we have the problem with. But
so what's the percentage there, sir? So let's say if 70%, okay, I just want to make sure I have these numbers correct. You're saying 70% of those who actually use an easy pass, which is actually pay. So that would actually be maybe 100% if you're saying all easy pass.
Yeah.
Folks. Okay.
That's right.
So the other 30% are folks who don't have an easy pass. And what is the percentage of those individuals that actually pay?
Jim, do you mind if I answer a little?
I was going to say, I think Deb's got some of that information.
I like numbers.
Deb Sharpless.
Okay. So
historically, we would always say 99% of our customers pay. And so the percentage of our customers that did not pay was the 1%. And now because of AET, I would honestly have to recrunch those numbers and see exactly what percentage we are at now. But prior to AET, 99% of customers paid. And that
I'm sorry, you
is
said prior to what, ma'am?
AET, the all electronic tolling. So prior,
Okay.
you know, I honestly just have not recrunched the numbers because you know, we made a lot of customer focused decisions to slow payments and you know, reduce it to the cash rate. So I have not recrunched those numbers. If I put the Easy Pass customers to the side who pay 100% of their tolls are paid, overall our payment rate for NOTDs, where you only pay the video toll rate, you don't have any penalties whatsoever, is at 70%. So 70% of customers that receive a notice pay them. If historically, the question earlier was asked, what percentage of civil penalties are paid? And historically, that's about a third of them. We dismiss an awful lot of penalties because of working with customers. I mean, tens of millions of dollars we will dismiss. If we can find a way, we'll do so and work. So the payment rate is at 33% for civil penalties, 70% for NOTDs. And
Okay, and so you, okay. So you said you're gonna recrunch the numbers for after AET.
right, the question that I was answering first, you had
Yes,
said
ma'am.
overall for all of your customers,
Yes, ma'am.
what percentage of them pay?
Mm-hmm.
So with absolute confidence, if you would have asked me that 6 months ago, a year ago, the answer is absolutely 99% of our customers.
Got it.
I just haven't done that.
Oh, no, I understand that. I was asking, you're saying you're going to at some point crunch those numbers.
I'm saying I would have to.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Yeah, no, we would love to see it if you have them, or I don't know if it's difficult or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the challenge here, Delegate, is that because we paused the NOTDs, notice of toll due, because we paused them, we have a backlog, if you will. And so we're still trying to, so we haven't really seen the numbers yet because the civil penalties haven't quite hit yet. And so we're in this kind of weird area, if you will, to try and get that information.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you for your response.
Sure, thank you.
Just one quick question, and then I'm going to go to Delegate Jacobs. Mr. Ports, given COVID, what kind of extensions are you giving? Because I know the mail is very, very slow. So folks that are getting this in the mail that, you know, maybe might normally be 30 days, 45 days, 60 days, can sometimes be significantly longer than that right now. What are you seeing and what are you doing to address the mail system?
Yeah, that is a new challenge, Delegate, I have to tell you. But what we've done is, so most people still do, as the previous delegate said, they see that civil penalty and they pay it. So most of them are paying it. But the ones who say, hey, I received it, actually even sometimes after the date, we work with them and we don't charge them the civil penalty. We say, look, if you pay the toll, we'll waive the civil penalty. So we work with them. That's not a problem, but that's a case-by-case basis, as you can imagine, because some people are getting their mail and some people aren't. I mean, I just got my Christmas cards like late January, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's one of my big concerns. Delegate
I'm looking across the subcommittee board here, and I see at least half of them are former local government officials. So I'm going to kind of talk from a local government standpoint just for a second. You know, when you're local government, you have water and sewer rates that go out quarterly, monthly, whatever it is. You know, if you didn't have a penalty or a consequence, people would never pay their bills on time. And there's a real number in late fees that are collected. It's a line item on a budget, not because you want it there, but because it happens, because not everybody pays their bill on time. Some people, you just who's going to be late every month. They're like the same people every month or every quarter, and they're habitual. But they know that a late charge when they don't pay on time, they don't care. But you know, it's part of doing business, and you can't reward bad behavior. You know, the ones that pay their bills on time, I mean, that's the way you should be doing business. But you know, to start waiving fees, I think is dangerous in the fact that, as the secretary said earlier, I mean, this is how the toll collection is their only means of funds to run the whole operation. And I'm sure that Secretary Ports would tell you in a heartbeat, he wish he didn't have one late fee. It would be easier to do.
I agree.
It would be easier to do business. And that's my point. No one wants to see a late fee. However, there are people that, you know, they just, I don't know, they think they ought to be treated different or something. And that's why you know, that you have to have a penalty for a late fee, because if not, people wouldn't give a damn when they paid their fee, you know? I mean, there's a reason.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And you're right. If it went away, we would have no way to even get the tolls that we try to get. And look, I guess you're from local government too, or were. You don't pay your house taxes, they take your house. You know, that's quite an incentive to pay your taxes. But people lose their homes. And, you know, it happens in local government, and it happens in the court system if you don't pay your bill on time, or if you get a ticket for a red light camera, if you get a ticket for anything, quite frankly, you get a penalty. Even your credit card, same thing. Mortgage, same thing. Everybody has to have a way to make people pay, not for the 99% that Deb talked about, but for that 1% that doesn't want to pay their fair share. The others that are doing the right thing shouldn't have to subsidize them. We would be in agreement.
And one follow-up comment, Mr. Chairman. I was glad to hear Deb Sharpless and the Secretary both say that they work with these people, that not everybody's assessed a late fee. If you know, there's some that call their legitimate reasons to work, and they suspend that penalty. Just the same as it happened in local government. When people have a legitimate reason why they couldn't, why certain things didn't happen by certain times, we all work in a fair way. But you must have a due date, and if you don't pay it, there's got to be consequences. That's part of doing business. That's all I got to say.
Okay.
And we need to thank you, the legislature, for that opportunity, because you may recall, a few years ago, we had no other opportunity other than to send it to CCU if you were late. And what the legislature did is they allowed us to pull those back and work with our customers on these special cases. And so we do a lot of that. And we are absolutely customer focused. And where we can work with people, we can. But it is up to them. You're right. It is personal responsibility. They do have to come to us and try to work with us, similar to what you do with a utility company if you're late. So we appreciate your helping us out on that one. And I think the bill sunsets, and I think Delegate Lasanti is looking to extend that sunset date. So we're in support of that.
All right, let's just let's move forward. So Patrick, what's the current fiscal note on this bill?
There, sorry. 1.62 million, I think.
Okay. I think we've had some good substantive conversation. I think, Mr. Ports, obviously there's a lot to unpack here, not only now, but moving forward. I don't see how this, to be quite frank, I don't see how this bill really moves with a fiscal note of that size. So what is the will of the committee at this point?
I move unfavorable.
Is there a second?
I don't feel comfortable with actually voting yet on this bill.
Would you like to hold the bill?
Yeah.
I'd like to hold it, please.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Mr. Secretary, did you have some?
No, I was going to say I'd rather not be present for it. I've been in many voting sessions as a delegate, and I'd rather them be a little more private. But yeah.
Okay, it's all being streamed over the internet anyway, so.
Oh, okay, that's true. Sorry, I forgot about that. They didn't do that when I was there.
I know, this is the first
It's
time
different.
we're doing it.
That's
Okay.
delicately, it's different.
Yeah, it's very different. Okay, let's go back up to David Moon's bill, HB 115.
So can we you drop us off or?
Yeah, I don't think we.
I
Okay.
think you guys can just leave on your own.
You guys are good.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for allowing us to work with you. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you for educating
Well, good
us.
evening, Jim.
Okay, so for David Moon's bill, House Bill 115, we did talk with Delegate Moon and kind of made some clarifications, and we also came up. Patrick, I don't know if we want to talk about the JPR side of this and whether, I know you said they're voting on it tomorrow.
Today or tomorrow. Molly, if you could scroll down a little bit. This is Delegate Moon's bill. We took out all of the drunk driving stuff. If you remember, we discussed that last week. Sure, exactly what the point was of having, what this bill does is it says, all right, if current law under legislation recently done says that if you are driving under a canceled, suspended, or revoked license, you don't get potential jail time. It's just a typical maximum $500 fine. But we've got to get it for displaying these licenses, canceled, revoked, or suspended. So right now, if you display a canceled, revoked, or suspended license, you can go to jail, but not if you're driving on it. So that's all this does do, but it's got a carve out if you still can get jail time if you were suspended for drunk driving.
And displayed it.
The question last week is why? What's the point? And well, why is that different? This bill has nothing to do really with drunk driving. It doesn't change the penalties, doesn't change the conviction, doesn't change anything. It just for this one specific violation says maximum $500. And so the crossfile in JPR, I did this amendment based on the discussion last week. I don't know what they're going to do with that. I think when the chair and I talked about it, we wanted to vote on this bill and then hold it from the full committee voting list tomorrow, just to see what JPR does.
Hoping that JPR just passes it out like we discussed.
Yeah, they're unpredictable.
With that said, I do think they've become maybe less unpredictable than they have in the past. That's the only caveat that I've said, and I think everybody knows what I mean by that. I don't need to go into those details. So are there any questions on the bill?
Yes. I think I got a little confused with what Patrick was saying. So there are some, I guess, proposed amendments taking out the drunk driving piece and just saying that if you're charged with this particular violation, which is driving on a canceled or displaying a canceled, revoked or suspended driver's license, then you would, you must appear in court and you must pay and you may not prepay the fine. In other words, you just have to appear.
Well, that's current law. That part is just a little bit reworked. If you look at the current law language down below, that's already in the current law.
Okay.
So that's not changing anything.
So now what is JPR doing? I missed something.
Well, they were the ones who had suggested the drunk driving language,
Okay.
and we're taking it out. Or at least,
Chair, you were saying that you hope that they pass it out as the way that we suggested. Is that what you just said?
We're thinking from our conversations with Delegate Moon and others on the other side that they'll pass it in the form that it is amended right now. So our thought was to pass this, not put it on the voting list for tomorrow, hope the JPR does the same exact thing, and then we pass it next week.
Okay.
Or if it's
Okay.
the will of the committee, we can just hold it and see what JPR does with it. I'm trying to move some bills along, and I know there's a lot of complicated bills we have. But
we can't hold everything.
yeah.
Okay, I just needed to be clear because I missed something along the way.
I certainly would be opening to moving and accepting the amended changes in the bill as amended and holding it to see what JPR is doing.
I mean, hopefully JPR does the same thing. I think Delegate Love, Sarah, did you have something?
This to me, I'm confused because it was described to us as closing a loophole that you were going to go to jail if you displayed a revoked or suspended license. But if you take out the parts that you've taken out and we're left with just this section 2, subsection 1, and then you look back at H or I, I'm not seeing where that talks about displaying a revoked or suspended license.
Molly, move the bill up a little bit more. It's right here in line 11.
Okay.
Person convicted of C, D, and E. C, D, and E is displaying a canceled, displaying a revoked, and displaying a suspended in
Right.
some sort of order. So that's what's giving it the maximum fine of $500.
Okay. So that's what we're talking about. So
That's
what,
correct.
on the next page, page 3,
That's just a technical change.
that's a technical change,
So you look at the language in the current law language in 17 through 19.
right?
That's current law, but it's incorrect because it says a person convicted of a violation must appear. Well, that doesn't make any sense. They're already convicted.
Right.
So we just corrected it to a person charged with a violation of this must appear and may not prepay.
Okay.
This is
Now I
basically
got it.
confusion.
Okay. Second, the favorable motion. Thank you for that explanation, Patrick.
Okay.
Okay. This is going to be a pain. If so many people have problems understanding this the way it's all cut up now, Patrick, this is going to be a pain. It's going to be a pain on the House floor. It's going to be a pain everywhere. But with
I don't
that
think
said,
so. I don't think so.
I think it's easier to read when
maybe when it's all put back together.
That's why you get the big bucks, David.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, thanks, Jeff. All right, well, do we have a motion?
I thought
Yes.
Regina moved.
Okay, second, is there a second?
A second.
Love seconded.
All those in
Good
favor,
program.
signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Neil, is that you're in favor or opposed? You're in favor. Okay. Okay. Any abstentions? Okay. Bill passes. Wonderful. Okay. I'll let Delegate Moon know, and hopefully we'll be good.
Oh,
That's-
quick question. Quick question. A point of order. Did we?
No, that's a good question. Did we just move the amendment? Is that what you're going to ask?
I think- Yeah, I think we just moved the amendment and not the bill. Patrick, he's supposed to
Yeah.
keep order.
yeah,
That's correct, right? We still
We get a little sloppy in subcommittee, but if subcommittee can keep as much order as it wants.
No,
Move the bill as amended.
You're right, Regina. Thank you.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor of the bill as amended, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, now the bill carries. Thank you, Regina. Let's move on to House Bill 178. That's the speed contest, Delegate Vaughn's bill. I know he sent some stuff over. I don't have access to what he sent over. Do you have access to that, Patrick? Yes.
Right on the screen.
I have it.
The gist of it is, and I haven't been able to get the amendment drafted yet, simply because COVID, we have had to revamp the entire amendment drafting system and still getting used to it. But the gist of it is that he's fine, and I think this committee was fine, the subcommittee was fine with last week, with just increasing the points from 5 to 8, which is bringing it down a little bit for participating in a speed contest. In the bill, he has it at 12.
But it's still an increase from 5 to
Oh, no,
8.
no, actually, in the bill, he left it at 5, excuse me. So it's increasing it a little bit. And then 5 to 12, if it results in serious bodily injury, that's already the bill. And then increasing the fine to 1,000, and then just taking out all the other elements,
And no must appears.
and including the must appear, which he obviously at today's hearings is fine with.
I
Right.
had a long conversation. Oh, sorry, Mr.
No, no,
Chairman.
go ahead, sir. Sorry.
Go ahead, Delegate.
I had a long conversation with him, and he mentions this in here about comparing different point values. And he walked me through, what's at 5, what's at 8, what's at 12. And I'm comfortable with moving these, the 5 to 8 and the 5 to 12, because they're relative to the other things that are at that point value.
And for the record, the penalties apply to the timekeepers and the flagmen too.
Yes.
Good.
In some cases, flag. Yeah. Okay. Delegate Boyce, did you have a question?
No, I was gonna say, I think we talked about this point system last time, because I think before the point system was just 12, and that was it. There was no range, if I remember correctly.
Right.
No, it was 5. It was 5 and 12 if it contributed to bodily injury.
Okay.
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 Delegate Jacobs.
Suppose you're just watching.
There's nothing about just watching. You either have to
Well, I
be.
mean, that's participating.
That's true.
Hey, well, I don't know about the rest of you, but my generation, we did a whole lot of this stuff. quarter mile drag racing.
Oh, Jacobs.
Move to
And
adopt
listen,
the
it
amendment.
used to be,
Second.
it used to be 30 or 40 people would show up to watch. That's why I'm asking the question.
Patrick, is that something that we need to address?
What's the question?
Spectators.
Spectators, participants. I
Yeah,
thought it was-
spectators.
I don't have it.
Spectators would be the right definition.
Spectators.
There is nothing in the law currently, or I believe the bill, about spectators. It's participants, flagmen, racers, time.
That's how you define it, Patrick. Is that-
Thank you.
Well, that's what's in the law.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right. I think I heard a first and a second on the amendments.
Yep.
All those in favor of adopting the amendments, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The bill as amended.
Move favorable.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor of the bill as amended signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Bill as amended passes. Okay, let's go to HB 383, red light cameras, rental car companies. This is Delegate Carr's bill. It's what's funny about this bill is it's a pretty simple bill, but yet it's very controversial. So Patrick, did you get information from Rob Smith? Because I got something, and again, I think people are sending them to both of us. So when I search my email, I can't grab it.
I don't have anything from him. I had something from the gentleman that testified. Mike DeLorenzo. But the real question to start is this something that the subcommittee's interested in? If it is, then his amendments are relevant. If they're not, if it's not, then
That's true. So what is the will of the committee? I mean, basically,
I have a lot of questions. I mean, like always, because I'm just a special ed, but I just have questions because so I've been thinking about this. I thought about an incident I had. I rented a van. I took that van from Baltimore to DC, did what I needed to do, pick up what I needed to pick up from grandma's house, returned it. And about maybe a month later, I had a certain amount of money removed from my bank account. And I was just like, what is this? And of course, it was apparently I was probably in DC somewhere to this date. I don't remember what part of DC, but I, you know, they do the formula kind of like if you're at a certain place at a certain time at a certain distance, then it's like, you know, you're over whatever. Well, anyway, I got a ticket and they took it. And I think the issue is when you go from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, the rules are different. And if you're there only one time, if the point is to curb behavior, what behavior is curbing for me for somewhere I may never be again?
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
I know I still saw Delegate Love's face.
No, I hadn't thought about that. So I was like, good point.
Right? Or if I take a rental car and I go to, you know, I drive to Philly, you know, and I get something there and I come back, well, and I get a ticket, yeah, I'm happy to pay the ticket, but I'm never going to be in a place again where the incident occurred or why it occurred or curb the behavior that the monitoring system is set up to. It's just a thought.
Right.
Although, if I may, Mr. Chair.
Yep, Delegate Love, go ahead.
Thinking about that, I think the behavior would be if you're renting a car, you know that you are going to be responsible when you run a red light or
absolutely
speed. So, well, it's just red lights now for this bill. Whereas now I could run a red light in a rental car and there's no consequence.
Right.
True.
you could get pulled over by a police officer.
Well,
True.
Well, and the other consequence, because somebody texted me last night at about, it was pretty late at night. Somebody texted me about this saying, you know, like, what's the status on this bill? And I said, well, why do you ask? And they said, well, we don't really like the bill. And so, well, it was late. And so I texted back and I said, oh, okay. So you don't mind if somebody who comes to Maryland on a very regular basis and knows they don't get fines for tickets when they don't get fined when they run red lights, runs the red light, T-bones somebody, and then somebody gets hurt or somebody gets killed. You're okay with that, right? And then of course they responded with something equally cheeky. But you know, the other consequence is that somebody, you know, but I mean, I can't disagree with what Regina said. I mean, I don't like to see it because that's a place where a lot of people get hurt, is T-bone accidents in intersections. Yes. That quite frankly, when you look at just the facts, that's where people get hurt and that's where people get killed, which is why you have all those beams in the doors and side impact airbags and all these things. But to your point, Regina, right? Like, I mean, if they've left the state, is this, how's it help? I don't know the answer.
Yeah, no, I'd be curious about the so I guess the point is too, when you rent a car, I mean, some people rent a car just to drive around maybe the state. I decide I want to go Western Maryland, but I rent a car versus my car. I still don't know the rules, certain rules in that part. And I may never rent a car to do it again. I'm just kind of trying to figure out the number of drivers that go between, especially states or very different jurisdictions that never go again, that otherwise are not, you're not privy to the area and the kind of I don't know.
All
Sorry.
right, Delegate Healy, I know you got your hand up, please.
Yeah, I do. I'm sorry. I should have used the electronic version.
No, that's okay. That's okay. We're small enough, I can see.
I just wanted to see, I see Bradley Rifkin is on the call. I think he represents the car rental companies. They might have a lot of insight about this. Maybe we could ask him.
Sure. Brad, did you want to?
Yeah, I mean, thank you.
Chime in and try and figure out how we can make Maryland a safer place without putting our rental companies out of business.
We certainly agree that Maryland should be a safe place. I think the reason why this exemption was put on the books a while ago, and Patrick can correct me if I'm wrong, was because the monitoring program was about changing behavior, as Delegate Boyce alluded to. And the enterprise, who is my client, they get 11,000 tickets a day that are sent to Tulsa, Oklahoma. And parsing through those tickets is impossible. So they pay them. And at the end of the day, the individual who runs the red light or who runs the speed camera, those individuals are not having their behavior changed because they don't know at the end of the day where they got the ticket, where it happened. And many of those people come in from out of state. And so that is why, from the inception of this particular part of the statute, the exemption was put in. And at the end of the day, my client ends up losing 40% of the time. They're unable to seek reimbursement because the individual renter, either their credit card is no longer on file, they didn't pay with credit card, or they just simply ignore our request for being paid. And we all know, particularly right now with the way the mail is, some of those citations come really late. And so, being able to seek the reimbursement, months after the fact is very difficult. So because of that, the non-at-fault business is the one that is, bearing the burden, and at times being the long arm of the state to seek that reimbursement. So, anyways, that's from our perspective why we would suggest that the exemptions stay on the books. But again, this is the monitoring program from either speed or red light is about changing behavior. So we would argue that the behavior isn't changing.
I'm sorry. Can somebody mute?
Yeah.
Can somebody mute?
Thank you,
Please?
Andrea.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Rifkin, I just very quickly, Delegate Love had something.
Sure.
Jay, did you get that from the chair? I love that. I'm curious because as I understand it from the sponsor of the bill, 20 states have red light cameras and only Maryland and Georgia exempt rental cars.
That may be true. And frankly, I can't, speak to whether or not that particular statistic is correct. I assume it is. But Maryland's put the exemption on the books for a reason. I don't know if those other states had the exemption put on the books or if they, the issue was even talked about when the monitoring programs took effect. But we would argue that the exemption that is currently here was put on the books for a reason, and it shouldn't change because the non-at-fault party ends up bearing the brunt and bearing the burden, and that cost is simply a revenue generator as opposed to really changing behavior, which the monitoring program is about. Renters that blow through a red light or get caught speeding and are pulled over by a police officer, they know what they did and they know where it happened. And that's I would argue that's just a different scenario than the monitoring program.
Continue, Delegate Love. It looks like you have a follow-up.
I just don't agree with that analysis. If I get a ticket from the rental company, which I have, I know what I've done.
You got a ticket? Oh, sorry.
I think a lot of us, and I'm not sitting here just to debate whether or not, you have. I would say a lot of individuals who see their credit card charged after the fact simply had their credit card charged after the fact and they don't know where it happened. When I've received those tickets as a personal driver in my own vehicle, I certainly know where I received that ticket because I look at the intersection, I say, yep, that makes sense. And generally speaking, we put those cameras in certain places in the state of Maryland that we want to make sure we make safer to change the behavior for those that live there. So, that for that reason, the exemption was put on the books, I guess, a decade ago when this program took effect.
So
Can I have a question for Brad.
Go ahead, Delegate Healy.
Is there any advantage to Maryland for being an outlier in this kind of situation? I mean, do we get it? Does Maryland get any kind of benefit from the car rental companies because we're not making them pay these fines?
Well, I can't, from the perspective of my client, my client ends up eating 40% of all tickets. That's 11,000 tickets a day. So 40% of the time we're not able to get reimbursed from the consumer. That will have an effect. I don't know what effect that would be, and I can't speak to it, but I know there are other smaller rental car companies in the state of Maryland where potentially their rates could go up. I can't speak for them, but I'm just going to say maybe that's possible for them. I can't say that it's possible for us. But at the end of the day, the increased cost of having to pay for individuals that are the at-fault party when the business is certainly not the at-fault party has a cost. And that cost is borne across the board.
Okay, thank you.
So
Mr.
the
Chair,
other thing that I would, I'm sorry. to somebody
ahead.
else. The other thing that I would say, we're just talking here as something that, Regina talked about and everybody talked about, just kind of, fleshing this out. So is somebody, I think Brad mentioned the idea that we're changing behavior and this doesn't change behavior. I get, while I get that, that statement is true based on the context of the state of Maryland. But when somebody goes back home to Arizona or California or wherever they come, and then 2 months later they get a ticket in the mail saying that you ran a red light camera, I mean, I'm not necessarily saying that it's our job to change behavior in the state of California, but just to put in the context, you ran a red light. This isn't that you just got through the speed limit changed and you went from 35 to 25 and you didn't notice. You ran a red light. And that's where I'm having a little bit of concern. I don't know, Delegate Love, if you're saying the same thing, but it's running a red light is a pretty significantly dangerous thing to do. But I don't know, Delegate Love.
Again, I wouldn't disagree with that. Running a red light is a dangerous thing. Again, the business that I represent ends up eating a significant number of these tickets. And I know that there are many that may think that's not an issue, but for a business that's not at fault, it is an issue. And
I wanted to dig in on that. You keep talking about you eat 40% of these tickets. What tickets are you talking about? Because we know you're not getting red light tickets in Maryland. So you're talking about all tickets in Maryland, all tickets around the country?
All tickets around the country. So yeah, that's a good question.
Are these only automated enforcement tickets?
No, the way it works for my client, because we have so many rental cars around the country, is that every single citation you can think of a toll, think of, parking, every ticket gets consolidated in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And every day around 11,000 on average are sent to Tulsa. And of those 11,000, 40% of the time when we, after we've paid, we don't get reimbursed from the particular at-fault party. And that's where the issue rests, I mean, for the particular client.
Okay, so this would be adding some number of tickets to that 11,000.
This would add us, for the state of Maryland, it would add up probably a significant portion of tickets.
We don't have that many light cameras. All right, thank you, Mr. Chair.
So
thank you, Delegate.
Thank you, Mr. Efkin. So I don't know what I will tell you. I don't know on this one what the will of Delegate Harrison, please.
I'm sorry, and I'm sorry about the.
No worries.
Yeah.
Jay's got 2 cups. He's got one cup
We do.
not muted, and the other cup that says you are muted, and he's just going to back and forth depending on who's doing what.
What I will say is that there are some areas that do have red light cameras I know in Prince George's County, there are a few, not a lot, but there are a few. So, I mean, I just wanted to throw that in there because I don't want us to think that there aren't any in Maryland. I can't speak for any other jurisdiction, but I know, and they're usually it seems like the ones that come to my mind, no, that's not even true. So yes, there are some that are in Prince George's County in various locations. So not a lot. I just wanted to throw my 2 cents in there. On my
Right.
mute earlier.
2 cents is more than anything. I just also want to go back to the point of, like, you ran a red light. That is true. I think in some cases, I've been at, and I want to be sensitive to this, I've been at red lights where the camera is such that if your bumper is over a bit of the crosswalk, you get nabbed for a red light camera. So like you're coming down maybe a little too fast. I'm not saying other people. And you stop, and sometimes either your bumper's in the crosswalk, or some people we know, unfortunately, are in the crosswalk. It will mark you as running the red light.
Yeah, I'm not sure. That's a good question. I think you're
I
probably.
mean, no, I'm telling you, it happens.
Okay.
Don't get me started on cameras.
I don't know.
hate cameras.
I don't know, because that's never happened to me, so I wouldn't know.
You know, there are also, I'm sorry, there
That's
are also, there are also instances where if you're in an intersection and the light and you're turning and the light turns yellow, you'll get flashed as well. I
Okay,
know that there, I know of one in particular where I've seen it happen multiple times. I think, Ann, it's in your district. It might be 47, I'm not sure. But so you know, I know that this may not, all of this discussion may not go directly to this particular issue, as we're talking about red light cameras and how people could possibly get violations.
It's true.
Yeah,
I guess where I come is that, look, y'all know I hate cameras. I hate them. But if you own the car and you run the red light or you get flagged, you have to pay the bill. If you are renting a car, you don't. In Maryland and in Georgia, but in 18 states that have this, you do. So that's where I'm wrestling. I hear the concern of the rental car companies. You are not the party at fault. I get that. But there's something that's wrong with that to me, that Marylanders who own their car are getting, have to be responsible for these tickets, and Marylanders who are renting a car don't.
Delegate Healy.
On this a little bit. I wasn't going to, but if you own your car and you run a red light, there might be extenuating circumstances. You might want to go to court and explain that there was somebody with a truck coming really fast behind them and you had to get out of their way or you're going to get nailed. Or one thing I know really did happen, that you're at Camden Yards for a baseball game and the policeman tells everybody to go through the red light and they all get tickets. And then they have to go up to Baltimore, but they get their day in court. But if you're in Oklahoma, because you rented a car in Maryland for a couple days, you're not going to come back and get your day in court. So there's that too.
You can.
You can, but you're not going to.
$1,000 to do it, but all right. Mr. Rifkin.
I'm here, Mr. Chair.
So I kind of feel like the subcommittee is all over the place on this, and I find myself agreeing with many different folks. What I would like you to do is I would like you to go back to your client, and I would like you to ask your client what they do in other states and what they propose, because obviously this subcommittee is kind of split on what we need to do. So it would be nice if there was some kind of option of some kind that maybe it's being done in other states. I get all of the parts of this. And I think that at this point, the rental car companies just saying no, that might, I don't know, if I were to do the votes right now, that might not fly. It might fly. So what are your thoughts about going back to your client and seeing if
Yeah, I mean, Mr. Chair, I'm happy to do that. I can say that based on the conversations, because this bill has been in one iteration or another introduced dating back to 2016. We had a good conversation with Delegate Carr a couple of years ago, with respect to him putting together the transfer of liability language to see if it would work. At the end of the day, it doesn't work because, again, we are inundated, the client, excuse me, not we, my client is inundated with tickets all the time, every day, and parsing out what Maryland does or what Oklahoma does is not something they can feasibly do. So because they're receiving 11,000 tickets a day, they simply pay them. So the exemption being on the books is, one way for them not to be the non-at-fault party that's on the hook. So I can't think of, I'm happy to ask, but I can't think of any way that any other state does it, because I just know that they pay these tickets and they try their best to seek reimbursement from the renter who is the at-fault party. So the exemption really is the only, it seems very binary.
I had asked about, I wish the actual client was here, about this in regards to when you put your credit card up to rent anything, and I'm thinking most importantly of like a hotel, where essentially they put a hold on your credit card, and even after they put a hold on it until everything is eventually quote unquote cleared, and then still some concerns, but it would put the rental car companies in the position to reap back a majority of their funds, because then it's like, well, you had to hold until this day until things clear out, and then they could, and
they do, Delegate, they do, I appreciate the point. They do hold for a period of time. There comes a point though where they can't just hold credit cards on file for months on end. And the problem that they have,
What's a length of time, Brett?
I can find that out, but I think it's 30 days. But in all likelihood, if the ticket isn't received, and we all recognize what's going on right now, at least with the mail, but if the ticket isn't received and the processing isn't done, and then the actual payment on someone's credit card isn't done for that period or whatever the hold is, then they're not able to be reimbursed. And oftentimes they also have problems with the credit cards no longer being active. And there are people that don't pay with credit card. So all of that just allows the individual renter to ignore. And again, I'm not trying to dance around the issues and very, real issues that Mr. Chair you have and Delegate Love you have. But again, representing a business, the business who is the not at fault party, they have issues being the one that's on the hook. And these are businesses that invest in the state of Maryland and have thousands of employees here. So.
Right.
I was going to talk about it in the opposite way, of that folks just have to put down a deposit and they get it back or don't get it back, rather than a hold. They have to put down a deposit.
Brad?
I can ask and see if they do that. I think that putting the deposit down may totally change the way they do business across the country. Okay. I just don't know if that's something they do.
I hear you.
They may have issues with that too, putting stuff in escrow. So I'd have to.
Well, Brad, if you can look at that, I mean, I think that I think that might, I don't know all the reasons why that wouldn't be a good idea, but it sounds like a good idea to me. Again, we don't write the law on rental car, contracts or whatever, but there does seem to be, kind of a split here on what we should do. So am I hearing anybody that wants to move one way or another on the bill? Otherwise, we'll just hold the bill until next week. And then Brad, hopefully you can come up with an idea. And if not, then we just vote it up or down next week.
I can do my best. Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to get any. I'll ask them if they can do it. It just may not change their position.
Fine.
Okay, so we're in agreement. We were going to hold the bill until next week, and then we're just going to vote it up or down next week. Good. Great,
Mr. Chair, I appreciate it, and delegates, thank you for letting me talk.
Yeah. One thing, Brad, before you go, just on a side note, there are companies that do the hard to collect collections, and some local jurisdictions have hired them hired companies such as this to go after individuals who don't pay, their tickets, and that have doubled. And so just as a side note, that could be something that could be considered. You might want to mention it.
Got it. You know,
All right, our last bill, which is House Bill 492, the Railroad Companies Movement of Freight Required Crew. Patrick, this is the same bill that we passed out last year with.
2 years ago.
What's that?
2 years ago,
2 years ago. That's right.
2019.
So I don't know, Larry, there was some questions about like European and other freight, other two people on a crew in some other countries. I know that you've been talking with Dana a little bit about that. Do you want to address that at all? Or does anybody have any questions on the bill? If it's in the same exact posture it was that we passed 2 years ago, I don't really have to.
And the General Assembly has passed it twice too.
Right.
So can we just vote on it?
Yes.
Yeah. Move favorably.
Second.
Okay. Any questions, any conversation, any debate? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye. You're looking at HB 383?
HB
No.
492.
492.
All right, I'm knowing that too.
I'm
Okay,
down.
so we
I gotta
have
be
Jacob,
consistent.
we have
I wanna
Jacob.
be consistent. I'm down for the fourth time.
Okay, Jacobs and Parrott are in the negative. Fraser Hidalgo, Harrison, Healy, Love, and Boyce. I don't know what Anderton's doing. I think he's shopping at Costco or Walmart or something. Are in,
He's looking
He's at
for an easy
Walmart.
pass.
so it passes.
He's scoping out to see if the Easy Pass is being sold there.
Okay. Oh, the only thing that I do want to address with the bill, and I probably should have addressed it before we voted, was that there was some kind of claim that CSX made about. Did you remember that, Patrick?
I think you're talking about the $5 million contract.
Yeah,
clause.
it doesn't make sense because it doesn't come until 2026 anyway.
Well, yeah, we were just talking about that. I mean, I don't know where they would get any damages. I haven't seen a contract clause, but I don't know where they'd get any damages when they did testify to the fact that they're going to have two-man crew to at least 2025 or 2026. Larry, do you have any comment?
In the fiscal note, there's a $2.4 million cost, potential cost. That was addressed in committee. The cost was attributed to CSX claiming they were going to, supposedly claiming they were going to require two persons in the cab of passenger trains if this bill passed. Delegate Wells asked that question specifically to CSX. They said they have no intention of making that requirement. Therefore, that would eliminate that $2.4 million fiscal note.
So that's just a red herring that got thrown out there to kind of confuse people a little.
Is that what the contract clause says, Larry? That not that CSX gets made whole by the state, but that this state has to put two in the passenger trains too?
No, there's no mention of crew size on a passenger train in the contract.
Just great.
Do you know where we can get a copy of that contract? I know we had the contract 2 years ago, which was different. It's been redone.
I don't. I would procurement office, I guess. I'm not sure.
Trying to remember where we got that from. I'll try to find that.
Well, we can address it if we have to. I mean, from our committee meeting last night, we're good. Okay. Thank you, everyone. I'll work on these last pieces. Thank you. I know it was very long, but I think we got a lot done. And I'd rather go long and make sure that everybody's heard and we, proceed carefully so everybody's comfortable with it than rush through things. I don't like rushing through things. That really freaks me out. So I appreciate everybody's patience. I know there's other places to go, but look, it's 4:33 and we're done. Bye.
All right, everyone, stop admitting crimes on YouTube.
Bring me back some cocoa butter from Walmart since you are
Don't forget to tell Carl to get off, or he's